Hello and welcome everyone to today's Data World Friday. Data World Friday is a weekly session we do here at Scalefree, and essentially you can submit your questions that you have in your data project, um, mainly about Data World, but essentially we try to answer every question here in the Data World Friday regarding data warehousing projects. And you can submit your questions online through this form. And then we will pick, so you'll find it here behind the link, essentially. And then we will pick a question each week and try to answer it for you guys. Normally Michael does these sessions. Today he can't be here, so I will take place instead. And I hope I can fill his shoes, essentially. So what did I want to talk about today? And the question I found in the backlog, which fits to one of the webinars I did recently, already a few months ago, but it was about um, cost monitoring and cost efficiency in Snowflake. And there was a question today about what are some best practices for managing costs in data warehousing. I'm not sure if they wanted to talk about managing cost or cost efficiency in data vault, or if the question is more meant general. Um, I will now go a little bit into the more general part of cost monitoring and cost efficiency and give you some of my thoughts regarding this topic. I hope I can answer the question as good as possible. So first of all, why you should have cost monitoring, and why it should be a focus in your data project. I think in a lot of data projects, when they start working on the project, which makes sense, right? They don't really think about it. And then later on, when the costs get higher, or um, when the let's say like dashboards you need to produce and stuff you need to produce is not so urgent anymore. So when there is a little bit more time, then they start thinking about cost monitoring. And I think nowadays, with so many companies moving into the cloud, or already or when they are already in the cloud, it should be a bigger focus. And there are some stats that prove that, essentially. Um, I mean, some of you will know this already. I've talked about it before, but essentially AWS has a statistic about customers who are using their cost monitoring tools reduce their monthly cloud bills by an average of 10 to 20%. Gartner says by 2024, organizations, so you still have a little bit of time, organizations that optimize cloud costs will achieve savings of up to 30%, which I think is a lot. 30% of costs sounds crazy. IDC businesses with cost management strategies are 24%, but more likely to forecast their IT spending accurately. So as you can see, all these statistics, they essentially underline the point how important nowadays cost monitoring is, and cost efficiency, and especially in cloud. But what can you do? I think the first part you should do is like we do the usual data vault development, right? We use the tracer bullet approach. So what we do is we look at the report, look what sources do we need to build this dashboard, and then start essentially to shoot a tracer bullet through the whole data warehouse, from sources to raw vault to business vault to information mart, and then the report. And I think the same goes a little bit for cost monitoring. You can really think about it as a and there comes one thing in before I skipped a little bit, as a real report that you want to build. But first, before you start with that, I think one really important topic regarding cost monitoring is responsibility. It gets often overlooked. Like a lot of projects, they just start, they just get a business use case from someone, but nobody really writes it down, makes fixed responsibilities, and I think it's really important. So this is why I think every data product, or also in a cloud environment tech product, should have a data owner or a person that is responsible. So even like in Snowflake, for example, a warehouse or an instant should have an data owner attached, so that there is just responsibility, because this is what is not done a lot. Normally, you just take the resources or get them implemented, but the DevOps team or the data platform team, whoever, I don't know, set up maybe the new warehouse for you in Snowflake, they don't really attach an owner to it, give a person responsible for it. So I think this is really important. The other part is set end dates for your projects. Essentially, if you start a project, um, if you start a project or build a report for some department, so let's say, I don't know, the finance department comes to you, you build a report for them, you should set some end dates. I think it really makes it easier for you to keep track of the different reports you're keeping alive. And sometimes you build a report, I don't know, for some finance topic for the year 2024, and then after 2024 this report, it has no value anymore. But the data warehouse team, they don't know. They produce the report, they maybe think, okay, maybe it's still used, so you need some kind of end dates. Or even if there is no real end date, if they say, okay, the project will go on, we need this report for the next 4 or 5 years, okay, that's fine. Then maybe put an end date like 2 years into the future, and then just the developer asks again, like, do you still use this dashboard? Is it still good? Do you need some changes? Um, yeah, questions like this, so you really know if this data is still used, if this dashboard is still used, and you don't, yeah, keep anything alive that just doesn't make sense anymore. Use tags, especially in newer data warehouses. If it's Databricks, Snowflake, in Azure, you can use different tags on different levels. Yeah, these tags are really useful for dashboarding data to really attach the cost to some kind of, yeah, business object. For example, if it's a cost center, it could be a department. Like, for example, you build this finance report, you give it a tag finance, so you know, okay, it's a finance report, and how much money do we spend for this finance report? You can then check every tag, everything that is attached to this tag. Um, and what you should do is have a strategy with it, not just create random text for everything. Um, Give it a little bit of thought up front. What makes sense in our case? Do we build reports for different departments? Maybe then this makes sense. Do we make dashboards for only certain stakeholders? Maybe it's not really departments, but only this one guy who works a lot with this and that. He wants this and that report. So yeah, use text. Um, and yeah, in the end, it's a little bit combined with the owner and with the text one. But what is the purpose? Why do you need this? What is the benefit of it? Um, what do you use it for? How long do you want to use it? So set a purpose for your stuff, right? Um, yes. This is like the easiest way to gain like a general high-level control of your project, and I think this is also what gives the most, yeah, let's say, like, maybe not quick benefit because you don't really see any cost with it. First, you need to implement it, and but I think in the long run, you will have the biggest benefit of this because you will have people you can talk to. You will, if you see, I don't know, one report that explodes in cost, you have a data owner or a report owner you can talk to and say like, yeah, your report is really expensive. Do you really need it? Does it bring the benefit that we expect? Um, yes, so I think this is something that really helps in the long run. But now let's come back to what I talked about before. How do you implement monitoring? And I think it's, yeah, the same like in every report in data world. In the end, you need to think about, okay, what do I want to do? What KPIs do I maybe want to calculate? And what sources do I need? And then you shoot through the whole data warehouse essentially. So first, what you do is you define KPIs. So what do you want to calculate? Maybe you want I don't know, cost per tag in your data warehouse per month. I don't know. You define some KPIs that are useful for you for cost monitoring. Then you visualize it in the end. You create a dashboard. I think this is really important and oftentimes underlooked. People build some nice reporting system for cost, but they leave it as a because it's like a more technical report, right? They leave it in the data warehouse as a flat and white table, which in my opinion, then a lot of times just lays around, nobody looks at it. So try to visualize it, try to get an dashboard that you can look at daily or monthly, how the cost is evolving. The same goes with an alert system. I think this is then the next step. After you have visualized your costs and have some nice dashboard, you need some alerts. These goes for budgets. These goes for queries. If they run too long. But this stuff is also really dependent, I think, on the data warehouse again. In Snowflake, we have some really cool options and Databricks and stuff as well. Maybe where when you're on premise, there's not so many options you can do, or you need to more customize it. And then do monthly meetups. Meet once a month at least with your FinOps team. Talk about budgets. Talk about maybe where are outliers, where are reports that take a lot of budget, and go over them and think about the value that they produce. Yes, I think this is important. Now I have some quick best practices. Some stuff I already talked about, some stuff not. Some stuff is cloud data warehouse specific. Like I said in the beginning, the question was pretty yeah, similar to a webinar I did about Snowflake recently. So this is only a small part of the webinar, but yeah, there I already talked about it. So what are the best practices? First of all, I think you should involve your stakeholders. They should know their role in cost management. They should know that the stuff they want you to produce or the reports you are producing are costing money, and that some of them are costing more money than others. So yeah, you should involve them, make them maybe data owners, show them how much their report costs, stuff like this. Set up budget alerts. So yeah, essentially set up limits for your queries, for your storage, for your costs, and set up alerts. Tags for resources, we already talked about it. Create a dashboard. So I think this is really important and really easy nowadays, especially in cloud data warehouses. I mean, this is still from the Snowflake one, right? Snowflake, Snowside for real-time cost and size. It's really easy nowadays. It goes pretty quick. So like a starter cost dashboard should be something you try to get in every project. Enable usage tracking. I think also really important to see who uses the resources and why. So maybe there are some, if you have like a self-service BI area, maybe there are some users who really use like a lot of cost and they maybe need some training on how to write queries. Maybe some developer needs some more training with it, just some support with it. Maybe there are some dashboards that are like really costly. So yeah, make usage tracking and also really look who uses a lot, especially if you have stuff like self-service BI. A lot of times people just write their queries, create, even if you allow them to create tables and stuff, they create a lot of tables. So keep that in mind. Yes, review allocations. So don't only look at it, but also make review meetings about it, talk with the stakeholders, talk with business people, which is maybe useful, which money is useful spent, which money is not. Monitor your queries. You will always have some queries that run much longer than other ones, maybe because of the data, maybe because they are not so well written. So you should monitor them. Optimize your warehouses. This is more a cloud specific thing. So for example, use auto suspend, resume to right size and scale your scale your warehouse correctly. Your yeah, a processing warehouse in the end. There are some features in general. The next one as well, optimize your storage, zero copy cloning, a really cool feature in Snowflake. You can use it for testing purposes, pipeline purposes, developing in general. It's really cost efficient, so really cool features there. But as it was more a general question, I don't want to go too detailed into the Snowflake part. How does Data Vault help you? I think some of the points really standard automation in data vault. You can automate the whole raw data vault, and these just reduce your cost significantly because you don't need so much manual effort anymore, and you can develop much quicker. Agile development, like I said, we use the tracer bullet approach, so we try to produce business value really early and often. So essentially, like every sprint, you want to produce some kind of business value, which is different from traditional data warehousing, where you had a lot of planning, a lot of modeling upfront. So yeah, you can deliver business value really quickly and therefore save cost. And then auditing and compliance with data vault, you can ensure GDPR compliance and in general are really audit friendly. So yeah, you're preventing legal issues and make it much more easier for your governance teams to approve your data warehouse and make it yeah auditable and compliant. Then some other stuff I think with data vault, look that you are loading in parallel to reduce the loading time. Um, I think that should be pretty standard nowadays. Um, you can think about materialization. Where do we what? Use pits and bridges. They really help to improve your performance, and they only are materialized one time, and then you can build views on top again, so you save some storage. And I think one point that a lot of people with data vault talk about is like you have a lot of tables because you split up the data in so many smaller parts, and you need a lot of joins, which therefore can be more storage costly. And I think that's fair to some extent, but also I think like storage is nowadays probably the most cheap part on a data warehouse. And then also I think therefore you get some other stuff like automation, like compliance, that is much more valuable and with like the right setup, with good pits and bridges, and a clean business vault. You have so many tools in hand to make your data processing in the end quicker, to get quicker, yeah, more performant queries in the background. So I think it, yeah, sets off a little bit. Think about the Pareto principle. I think it fits really well to the topic of cost monitoring. I said it in the beginning, everybody should start nowadays. The Pareto principle essentially says focus on the top 20% of yeah, maybe let's say cost expensive queries or tables, whatever it may be in your data warehouse, and they may maybe already account for 80% of the cost. It's a lot of time like this. You have like a few queries that are running really long, that are really expensive. You have a few tables that are huge. And maybe it makes sense to go detailed into CDC data there. There are optimizations for these long runners and cost yeah, not cost efficient tables and queries. So I would prioritize these top 20% that are really expensive. They will already have a significant impact. Yes, I hope I could answer that question. I mean, I don't know if it was more data vault related, how to be more cost efficient in data vault. But I don't think there's so much to go into detail regarding this. So I hope that helped. It was, like I said, I already talked about it in the webinar probably half a year ago, maybe not a few months ago, which was more general about some Snowflake topics, but the question fit perfectly. I hope it helped. I hope I could answer the question. Um, Yes. So if you have any questions coming up or you want to have answered in the next session, feel free to put them into our form that you find here on the link, Scalefree/Data World Friday. And I think next week Michael is back. I'm not 100% sure. Feel also free to check out our YouTube site. There you can find all the recordings if you are looking for some old stuff. Um, there there we already answered a lot of questions. And yeah, then thank you for joining and have a great Friday. Bye bye.